Okay, I just wanted to take a moment to not so much make a video, but get something off my chest. I, and I'm sure some of you as well are old enough to remember when Obama was first elected to president of the United States, and the amount of conspiracy theory nonsense that just flew through the alternative media at that time about everything that was going on, about about these conspiracies about FEMA camps and people getting locked up and the suspension of habeas corpus and all of the totalitarian new world order nightmarish conspiracy theory stuff that had been going on for decades. And I remember all this and the videos of the people going to the FEMA camps and finding the cheap disposable coffins called Atlas burial containers. They're basically like cheap mass produced graves that FEMA had bought in case of viral infection and people die, and then people die of an infection. You have to take care of the bodies that are infected after they die, etc. This is for a mass outbreak, something that FEMA has to be prepared for. Well, I mean, as long, back when FEMA actually existed. And the conspiracy theory nonsense that went around about that. But what really got me was the sudden outburst of this idea that Obama was going to be totalitarian, that he was a secret communist, a secret Muslim, and that everything was going to go to totalitarian because of it. And of course, it never happened. But the fact that they were railing on it so hard and tried to push it into the mainstream as much as they actually could, and it was it was so utterly bizarre to me as a non-American to see such outrageous nonsense getting into the mainstream and being taken, trying to be get taken into the mainstream, and being so active on social media sites like YouTube. This is back before there was any real censorship of conspiracy theory nonsense. This is back where you could post basically pretty much anything and YouTube would allow it as long as it didn't actually break actual law. And the fear mongering that went on about the totalitarian government that's coming now because a black man is president, and that there was going to be no more rights, and some of them went into the realm of that white Christians were now going to be persecuting Christians, were going to be persecuted and sent into camps to be exterminated, etc. I remember one guy, I think his username was Minuteman 1776 or something like that. He had this like utterly ridiculously bizarre idea that U.S. troops would be so busy with fighting unjust wars overseas that they lie to get people into, that the army of Russia would have to come to the U.S. in order to corral American citizens into FEMA camps because U.S. troops would never do that to their own people, kind of thing. And he actually believed that. Like, he actually believed the U.S. would allow a foreign army to occupy itself and carry out like death squads, concentration camps, etc. And he legitimately believed this. Like, he really believed it. I mean, it's utterly and complete nonsense. Like, anybody with any even a modicum of understanding of geopolitics would instantly know how utterly insane such an idea is. But the idea was there nonetheless, that this was it, the totalitarian new world order, one world government, or even without one world government, without anything new world order or anything like that, was coming, and it was here right now, and that's what it was going to be because Obama was elected, and none of it happened. And the fear that this was happening, and the and obviously that they didn't want this. It was something against their values. The Constitution was going to be overthrown. The Constitution was going to be rewritten or thrown out or something like that. And what are we seeing today? We're seeing today exactly everything that they said Obama was going to do. Everything that many of them even said Bush was going to do. Just completely remove people's rights, lock people up indefinitely without charge, which did happen. Guantanamo Bay existed during both their presidencies, even after Obama promised that he would get rid of the Guantanamo Bay detention. And obviously never did, and Biden never did. And there's still people being held there indefinitely without charge, whose only crime is living in a country that the U.S. wanted to occupy. But now it's happening. People in the U.S. are being snatched off the streets by ICE. Thugs deputized by ICE. Usually patriotic militias whose thing is trying to protect the country from illegals coming in and destroying the place. And now every single South American that comes through is MS-13 for some reason. If you have even the slightest little thing about you, you're MS-13. Or even according to Fox News in the previous video that I uploaded, if you wear a Bulls cap in the wrong state, that means you're MS-13. But we're seeing it right now. And what are we seeing as the backlash against it? All those of the ideology that complained Obama was going to do this are cheering it on. All those who constantly talk about freedom and rights and the Constitution and how the government's going to take it away and we have guns in order to fight for our rights and to fight tyranny, they're literally helping tyranny do it right now. They're cheering it on. And I even made the comment the other day, well, you might as well just institute gun laws to take guns away from people. Because, well, we need guns in order to fight a totalitarian, rights-defying government. And said, well, you've got that right now. You're not doing it. In fact, you're actually cheering it on and trying to help it. So you obviously don't need guns for that. If that's the reason why you have guns, is to fight tyranny, and that was the whole point, and that was the whole reason the Founding Fathers wanted that in there for the Constitution, etc., well, you don't need them because you're not doing it. You're actually failing the Founding Fathers and the reasons why they put that in the Constitution, the Second Amendment. You're failing the Second Amendment by cheering on all this illegal detention. And yes, it is happening to American citizens now, not just illegals who just get snatched up. It is now officially happening to American citizens, even ones that are waving their birth certificates right in the face of authorities. Masked men in plain clothes just snatching people off the streets because someone looks a certain way. And you're cheering it on. After all that time of screaming how Obama was going to do this and how there was going to be the one world government and how rights were going to be destroyed and white Christians were going to go to FEMA camps, you're the one helping them do the very thing it is you said you were afraid Obama was going to do. You are that thing. For a long time, for decades, people have been calling you Nazis and fascists, and you put out the meme, everything I don't like is Nazis, everything I don't like is fascism, a child's guide to blah, 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 blah. You see, the problem is you kind of can't say that when you actually do it. When you actually support people being snatched off the street based on their ethnicity, based on their race, being snatched up and sent to essentially permanent detention, without charge, without trial, without any kind of judicial oversight whatsoever, you're basically, yes, and even according to the U.S. Holocaust Museum, that is the definition of a concentration camp. You call it what it is, a concentration camp. And then you cheer it on. Yes, you are a fascist. Yes, you are a Nazi. You may not be a Jew-hating Nazi, but you are a Nazi nonetheless. You are doing it. You are doing idolatry worship of Trump, which is a violation of your Christian beliefs. Graven images and worshiping false idols and whatnot. But you're doing it. You're actually doing the very thing it is you said was going to happen against you. And that was going to happen, how you had to have power in order to make sure that this didn't happen. You're a fraud. And you deserve to be called out on it. And you deserve to be labeled what you are. And that all this time, as you scream, no, we're not the fascists, you're the fascists, because you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You were the ones who actually did it. Every one of your accusations was a confession. The same thing as with the Israelis. Every accusation is a confession. And you're just like them. And you're doing everything, and you're doing things just like them. You're not at the point of bombing innocent people yet. You'll do it if given a chance. You will gun down innocent people if given a chance. It will happen. One of these deputized yahoos is going to gun somebody down. They're going to kill somebody sooner or later. Because that's what they are. They are untrained thugs. And they're going to be murderers. They are murderers in waiting. So you never ever again get to point to anything left or anything liberal and say, you're the real Nazis. You're the ones taking away people's rights. Because you are the ones doing it right now. You are literally the ones taking away people's rights. But you don't give a shit because they're not white. And that's basically the truth. You don't really actually care whether or not the South American is legal or not. Even if they're perfectly legal, you're okay with them being taken away because they're South American, because they're not white. Just be honest about what it is that you're saying. You don't actually care. You are it. You are Nazi Germany. You are the reincarnation of that society. You are not just the reincarnation of the so-called good Germans who stood by while their Jewish neighbors disappeared in the middle of the night. You're worse than that. You're cheering on them being snatched off the streets in broad daylight. You're not even sitting there scared to say anything because the government is too scared and you're afraid that it'll happen to you. You're cheering it on. You're a cheerleader for it. You are worse than them. And that is a fact. That is how horrible you are. That is what makes you a Nazi. And you never again ever get to complain about being called a Nazi because you are doing it absolutely, purely, openly, unashamedly doing it. So don't ever cry again, getting mad or angry when someone says you or says that calls you a Nazi ever again, because you're doing it. Look in the fucking mirror, because you are doing absolutely everything that they did. Just replace Jew with South American. You don't know the difference between someone from Mexico or Guatemala or Argentina. It doesn't matter. To you, everything is just Mexican. It's just brown person. That's what you want. Just replace that with Jew, or replace Jew with that, and you get exactly what you are. So all these decades where you were being called a Nazi was actually accurate. It wasn't hyperbole. And many people thought it was hyperbole, and the word Nazi was being used too freely and openly. Even among the left, it was, using it too openly and freely, and the word doesn't mean anything anymore. But it was accurate. Because that's what you are. You are the very thing that it is you said that you were fighting against. You are the problem. Think about it.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.